picture this scenario. It's maybe 11:30 at night.
Right.
The house is totally quiet. The blue light from your phone is the only thing illuminating the room. It's casting these weird shadows on the wall. And you're just lying in bed, scrolling through your favorite shopping app.
The witching hour of commerce.
Exactly. It's the danger zone. And maybe it's clothing, or maybe it's high-end camping gear for a trip you haven't actually planned yet, or tech gadgets.
Usually tech gadgets for me.
Right. So you've spent maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, curating the absolute perfect cart. You've hunted down the discount codes on a separate tab.
Yeah.
You've read the reviews from people you don't even know.
Oh, yeah, doing the deep research.
Yeah. It's all sitting there. The digital total is just waiting at the bottom of the screen. And you hover your thumb over the checkout button.
And then?
And then nothing.
You don't buy it.
You just stop.
Yeah.
You stare at it.
Yeah.
And you close the app. Because it's not that you're broke. It's not that you don't want the items in theory. It's just that the act of actually buying them suddenly feels heavy.
Yeah, heavy is a good word for it.
Or maybe just pointless. You realize that in 3 days, a cardboard box will arrive, you'll cut the tape, look at the thing, and your life will remain exactly the same.
You have just described the shopping cart paradox.
Is that an actual medical diagnosis?
Yeah.
Because I really think I have it. And
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people listening probably have it too.
It's not medical, but it is sociological, and it's a symptom of a much, much larger shift. Basically, we are hitting the ceiling of satisfaction.
Okay.
We have spent the last 100 years building a society designed to get us stuff, and we got the stuff. We have so much stuff we actually have to rent extra units just to store the stuff.
So true.
And now we're asking a very dangerous question, which is this it?
And that's exactly the cliffhanger we are dangling over today.
Okay.
What happens to a civilization when consumption just kind of breaks? When buying things stops working as the primary engine for happiness? Do we just stop spending entirely?
Well, that would crash the economy.
Right. Do we crash the economy, or do we start spending on something else entirely?
It is arguably the existential question for modern capitalism. And to answer it today, we are not just speculating, we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating, almost prophetic piece of source material.
Yes, we are.
We're looking at a book called The Fifth Consumption Era, or in the original context, Dawu Xiaofei Shidai. It's by the renowned Japanese sociologist and consumption expert Atsushi Miura.
Now, Miura is a heavyweight in this field. He's not just an economist crunching numbers in a tower. He is known as a society watcher.
Right.
He's literally spent his career in Japan tracking consumption patterns over the last century to figure out who we really are.
And this is key for our listeners. Japan is the laboratory here. Miura's whole argument is that Japan acts as a time machine.
A time machine.
Because of how rapidly it modernized, boomed, and then stagnated, it's about 10 to 20 years ahead of other developed or developing economies. The book specifically mentions China, but it applies to the West too. He uses this data to predict exactly where everyone else is heading.
So if you want to know what your relationship with money is going to look like in 10 years, you basically look at Tokyo today.
Precisely. It serves as a mirror. It predicts how societies evolve as they move from poverty to wealth to, well, that's the mystery we're solving today.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We are going to map out these stages, these 5 eras of consumption. We want to understand why so many of us are shifting away from what Miura calls brand worship.
Which is a huge shift.
Massive. And moving toward this mysterious 5th era.
The 5th era is where the currency actually changes. We stop trading just in money and we start trading in happiness and well-being and connection.
By the end of this hour, our goal is that you'll understand why you might suddenly prefer a quiet walk in a park over a luxury bag, and how to become what the source material calls a life expert rather than just a consumer.
It's a great concept.
So grab a coffee, maybe put down that online shopping app for a second, and let's get into the time machine.
Let's do it. So to understand where we are going, we really have to understand where we've been. Miura breaks down the last century into 4 distinct eras before we even get to the new one.
It's like a genealogy of our desires.
Exactly. It's a journey from survival to satisfaction.
Okay, set the dials. Where do we start?
We start in the first era. Miura dates this roughly from 1912 to 1937. This is what he calls the era of the nation.
1912. That feels like ancient history. We're talking pre-World War II Japan here.
Right, context is everything. This is the era of westernization in Japan. It's the budding of a middle class. But the mindset of the consumer was very specific.
How so?
It wasn't, oh, I want this because I like it. It was, we need this because we are modern.
So it was like collective consumption.
Exactly. You aren't buying for personal expression at all. You are buying to build the modern family, which is seen as the building block of the modern nation.
That makes sense.
So you bought a radio, not to listen to your favorite niche music, but to be connected to the national discourse. You bought Western clothes suits and dresses to signal that Japan was a modern country capable of standing on the world stage.
So it was purely functional, but with almost a patriotic flavor to it. Like, I need a stove to cook rice efficiently so I can work harder for the country. I need a uniform to show I belong to the new era.
It was heavily utilitarian. The goal was basic equipment, stability, modernization. We take this for granted now, but just having electric lights or a gas stove, that was the luxury. It was about survival and establishing a baseline.
Okay, so that's the baseline, survival and modernization. Then the war happens, everything is obviously destroyed, and we enter the rebuild. This brings us to the second era, 1945 to 1974.
The era of the family. And this is the era that I think most people still associate with the American dream, or in this case, the post-war miracle.
This is like the Mad Men era, the big economic boom.
It's the keeping up with the Joneses era. The economy is taking off like a rocket. Salaries are doubling. And the consumption behavior shifts from national survival to class climbing.
The notes from the source mention something called the Three Sacred Treasures, which honestly sounds like an Indiana Jones movie.
It really does.
Yeah.
But in Japanese economic history, the three sacred treasures of the 1950s were the washing machine, the refrigerator, and the black and white TV.
Wow.
If you had those, you had made it.
It's funny because those are the most boring objects imaginable today. Washing machine is just a chore robot. It's completely invisible to us.
But back then, it was absolute liberation. Think about the domestic labor required before a washing machine. It was hours of scrubbing by hand. Buying that machine gave the family time back.
That's a huge quality of life upgrade.
Right. But later in this era, as people got richer, the treasures changed. It became the three C's: car, cooler, which meant air conditioning, and color TV.
Okay, now we're getting into actual status symbols. Because a car isn't just a tool to get to work. It's a statement.
And that is the crucial psychological shift of the second era. Ownership became identity. But, and this is a really important nuance, it wasn't a unique identity.
What do you mean?
It was standardized identity. You bought a car to prove you were a normal, successful, middle-class citizen. If your neighbor bought a white Toyota, you bought a white Toyota. You didn't want to stand out. You wanted to fit in, just at a higher level.
It's like I have, therefore I am. But specifically, I have what they have, therefore I am valid.
Exactly. It was consumption as a ticket to the middle class.
Yeah.
Giant mass production, giant mass consumption. Everyone watching the exact same shows on the same TVs. It was entirely about climbing the class ladder.
But humans are fickle creatures. Eventually, having the same TV and the same car as your neighbor stops feeling like an achievement and starts feeling, I don't know, boring. It starts feeling like a uniform.
And that boredom birthed the third era, 1975 to 1997. The era of the individual.
The I'm special phase. This lines up with the bubble economy, right?
Yeah, it does perfectly. The economy was roaring, money was everywhere, and suddenly fitting in was for losers. The psychology flipped from I want to be normal and successful to I want to be different.
This sounds a lot like what we see with younger consumers today, honestly, or at least what we saw in the era of peak influencers. Everyone shouting, I want to be unique.
It parallels it perfectly. Consumption became a canvas for self-expression. You didn't just buy a shirt, you bought that specific shirt from that incredibly niche designer to show that you had unique taste.
Right.
This is the era of massive brand segmentation. Companies stopped making one product for everyone and started making 50 versions of the product for 50 different types of egos.
So instead of keeping up with the Joneses, it was distinguishing myself from the Joneses.
Correct. I buy niche things, therefore I am a unique and special snowflake. It was the peak of the ego in consumption.
Sounds exhausting.
It was hedonistic and it was fun for a while, but yes, it was incredibly exhausting. You were constantly curating yourself.
Okay, so we went from we need this to live in era 1 to we need this to look rich in era 2 to I need this to look cool in era 3. What happens next?
Reality hits. The fourth era, 1998 to 2020. This is the era of sharing. Or, as I like to think of it, the less is more phase.
This lines up with the economic stagnation in Japan. The bubble burst.
The bubble burst violently, you had the lost decades, and on top of that, you had massive natural disasters, the Kobe earthquake in the 90s, and later, the Great East Japan earthquake in Fukushima.
Tragic events that really reshaped the national psyche.
Completely. People realized that economic growth simply isn't infinite. And suddenly, having a house full of unique, expensive stuff didn't feel freeing anymore. It felt heavy.
Well, yeah. If an earthquake hits, that collection of designer ceramic plates isn't an asset. It's basically shrapnel.
Exactly. The stuff literally became a burden, and this led to the rise of a concept called danshari.
Manshari. We know this in the West as the Marie Kondo effect, right? Decluttering. Minimalism.
Roughly, yes. Dan means refuse. Sha means dispose. Rai means separate. It's the philosophy of cutting ties with material possessions.
Wow.
It wasn't just an aesthetic choice to have a clean room, it was a survival strategy for a new economic and physical reality.
So people just started clearing out their lives.
They did. And the underlying logic shifted from ownership to utility. Why do I need to own a car that sits in my driveway 90% of the time, costing me insurance and maintenance?
Right. You just need to get from point A to point B.
Exactly. So I can share a car, I can share a house via Airbnb. Environmentalism also becomes a major factor here.
So we started valuing the connection and the actual function over the possession itself.
It was a sobering up period for society. We looked around at all our accumulated stuff and realized it wasn't making us happy. It was just clutter.
Which perfectly leads us to the cliffhanger we started this whole deep dive with. We've stripped everything away. We aren't impressed by big brands anymore. We aren't trying to signal status to our neighbors. We've decluttered our homes. What is left?
We have arrived at the fifth era, 2021 and onward.
The fifth consumption era. So, if we aren't buying for status, and we aren't even buying just to be different from everyone else, what are we buying for?
The source material is very clear on this. The core theme of this new era is the pursuit of well-being. Or, even more simply, happiness.
Well-being is a bit of a buzzword, though, isn't it? I mean, corporations love to slap the word wellness on a bottle of sugary vitamin water and upcharge you. What does Mira actually mean by well-being?
He means spiritual satisfaction. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo or abstract.
A little bit.
But think of it economically. When material satisfaction is completely saturated, when you can get literally any product delivered to your front door in 24 hours, the marginal value of more stuff drops to near zero.
Because it's too easy to get.
Right. So what's the only thing that is actually scarce in modern society? It's peace of mind.
So you're saying we are moving from an economy of goods to an economy of vibes.
Huge joke, but yes. We are literally trading in mood value. It is no longer about filling a shopping cart. It's about filling the heart. It's about spiritual satisfaction over material satisfaction.
But wait, before we get too deep into the spiritual side of it,
Yeah.
there's a really important nuance the expert in the source material brought up. These eras, they aren't like levels in a video game where you beat level 4 and you never go back, right?
That is such a crucial point. These eras are not walls. They are layers. The expert notes that in modern society, and they use China as the primary example here alongside Japan, all 5 eras actually coexist simultaneously.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because I can look at my social media feed right now and see someone unboxing a super expensive luxury bag,
Yeah.
which is classic Era 2 behavior.
Right.
And then the very next post is someone talking about their extreme minimalist aesthetic and selling everything they own, which is Era 4.
Yeah.
And then someone on a spiritual retreat in Bali for Era 5.
Exactly. The coexistence factor is everywhere. And the chaos isn't just on your feed, it's inside us. You might be Era 5 about your weekends, wanting just a simple walk in the park with a friend, but you have an Era 2 mindset about your laptop or phone, where you feel you absolutely must have the latest pro model to be relevant.
We all have 5 eras living inside us simultaneously. That actually explains the tension I feel so often. The battle between, I really want to buy the shiny new thing, and I want to be completely free of all things.
It is the defining conflict of modern life. But the trend line, the heavy gravity of the culture, is pulling us toward the 5th era. And to understand why that shift is happening, we have to look at the drivers of change, the why behind it all.
Right, because it's not just that we all collectively decided to change our minds. The actual structure of society changed underneath us.
Exactly. This is where we get into the demographics. And I know demographics can sound a bit dry, but the data here is actually wild. It's demographics is destiny.
Yeah, the source had some staggering numbers. Like, the biggest driver of the 5th era is the rise of the single household.
It is. In China, for example, single-person households now exceed 25% of the total households.
A quarter of all homes. Just one person.
And the causes for this are complex but undeniable. Low birth rates, immense economic pressure, career instability, and frankly, the high cost of the traditional dream family life makes it unattainable for a lot of people.
So how does a quarter of the population living alone change the economy?
It changes the fundamental unit of consumption. In the first and second eras, the consumption unit was the family. You bought a fridge for the family, you bought a car for the family. Now the consumption unit has shrunk to the individual.
This is what the outline called the solo economy.
Right. Think about what that looks like in a physical store. You start seeing mini appliances everywhere. Rice cookers that make exactly one bowl of rice. Dishwashers designed for 2 plates.
I've seen those.
But the psychological shift is even bigger than the products. It's the shift from Uren to Yuji.
Break those terms down for us.
Uren means pleasing others. In Era 2, you bought a massive, beautiful sofa so your guests would come over and be impressed. You bought a big turkey to show off at the family dinner.
It's outward facing.
Exactly. But Yuji means pleasing oneself. If you live entirely alone, nobody sees your sofa. You don't buy it to impress anyone. You buy it because you personally like the texture of the fabric against your skin.
It's the death of performative consumption. When you're single, you don't have to compromise on what TV show to watch or what to eat for dinner. Your consumption becomes entirely about treating yourself.
And this naturally drives what sociologists call the loneliness management market. The source explicitly mentions the pet economy here. Pets are effectively replacing children or partners for many people.
The fur baby phenomenon.
Yeah.
I know people who treat their dogs better than most people treat their relatives.
It's a huge industry, and it's practically recession-proof. Why? Because a cat or a dog provides the emotional connection of a family member without the devastating economic cost or the complex logistics of raising a human child. You might eat instant noodles yourself for a week to save money, but you will absolutely buy premium, organic, grain-free salmon pate for your cat.
Because the cat is providing that spiritual satisfaction we talked about earlier.
Exactly, but it's not just single people driving this shift, right? Even within families, the dynamic is changing fundamentally.
Right. The source mentioned that the family structure itself is changing its core function from an economic survival unit to something else.
Right. Historically, the family used to be an economic survival unit. You stayed together because it was literally too expensive to live apart. You pooled your resources to buy coal or flour or rent.
And now?
Now, as societies get wealthier overall, the family is becoming an emotional connection unit.
So we aren't buying things just to survive together. We're using consumption to maintain the relationship.
Exactly. You might pay for an expensive family trip not because you need to travel, but to create memories. You might buy premium health services for your aging parents. You aren't pooling money for rice anymore. You are spending money to show care. The consumption is just the glue for the emotion.
Which brings us right back to that core currency of the fifth era, spiritual satisfaction.
Yeah.
The source material mentions a Japanese survey that I thought was fascinating. It's been running since 1972.
Yes, the Cabinet Office Survey on National Life. It's an incredible data set because of how long it's been running. Since the 70s, they have consistently asked people a very simple question. What do you value more in your life? Material richness or spiritual richness?
And let me guess, back in the 70s, material richness was winning.
It was very competitive, yes. People wanted the stuff. But as the decades passed and as the national GDP went up, the preference for material richness crashed, and the desire for spiritual richness skyrocketed.
It's an inverse relationship.
Exactly. The trend shows that the richer we get as a society, the less we care about material riches. Once you have the stuff, you realize the stuff isn't the answer.
Emotional value is the new hard currency. In the source, they actually call it mood value, or kingzujiaze.
Mood value. I really love that term.
Can we give a concrete example of that? Because mood value sounds a bit like something a marketing consultant made up to charge a brand double for an ad campaign.
It does, but it's very real. The source gives a great example using high-end audio equipment.
Okay, sounds like a standard tech purchase. How is that spiritual?
Look at the why behind the purchase. In the second era, or even the third era, if you bought a $5,000 speaker system, where did you put it in your house?
Front and center in the living room. It was essentially furniture. You wanted people to walk in and immediately say, whoa, look at those speakers.
Right. It was external. It was a status play. But in the fifth era, you don't do that. You buy $500 premium noise-canceling headphones, you put them on, you close your eyes, and you lie in bed.
Nobody even sees them.
Exactly. Nobody sees them. You aren't buying them for the logo on the side. You are buying the immersion.
You're buying the ability to get lost in the melody and just find yourself. You aren't really buying hardware. You're buying a mental state, an escape pod from the world.
Precisely. It is the fundamental difference between look at what I have and look at how I feel.
Another example they gave that really resonated with me was scented candles.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone I know is obsessed with expensive scented candles right now. And I used to think, it's just fire that smells like vanilla. Who cares?
It is the ultimate fifth era product. Because functionally, it's utterly useless. It produces a negligible amount of light and heat. You can't cook on it.
Right.
But emotionally, it's a ritual. You light it to signal to your brain the hunt is over, work is over, I am safe in my space, I am calm. You are literally paying for a moment of peace. You are buying a confirmation that I am okay.
We are buying meaning.
Yes.
Yep.
We buy products with a touching backstory or a healing travel experience to the mountains. We are trying to fill a void that mass-produced material goods just can't touch.
This connects to something else I found really interesting in the notes, the paradox of the digital native. Because we are more online than ever. We practically live inside our phones. And yet, the fifth era consumer is totally obsessed with the real, the physical.
It's the pendulum swinging back. We're drowning in the digital. Algorithms are amazing, but they are almost too precise. They create these tight information cocoons.
They only show you what they already know you like.
Right, which is efficient, but it's incredibly boring after a while. People are getting bored of perfection. It lacks friction.
So we craze the analog to escape the algorithm. The source mentioned this huge trend of young people who are total digital natives going on city walks or visiting wet markets, traditional open-air vegetable markets.
I love this example so much. Because rationally, why would a 20-year-old go to a chaotic, noisy, sometimes dirty vegetable market when they can just order perfectly clean groceries on an app in 3 seconds?
Because the app is sterile.
Yes. They want to touch the texture of the wind. That's the poetic phrase used in the source, the texture of the wind. They want to hear the rustle of real leaves. They want to smell the fresh produce. They want the chaos of the crowd.
I want to haggle with the grandma selling radishes.
Exactly, because that feels real. It hasn't been coded by a developer in Silicon Valley. It hasn't been optimized for conversion.
It proves they are alive in the physical world, not just a node in a simulation. It's the exact same psychology with independent bookstores, right?
Completely. An Amazon algorithm says, you bought this sci-fi book, so you will like this other sci-fi book. It's useful, but it's cold.
Yeah.
But going to a physical store and a shop owner says, hey, I read this weird memoir last week and it made me cry, you should try it. That recommendation has human warmth. It has unpredictability.
So in a way, consumption in the fifth era is often about buying time, but not in the old way of buying a washing machine to save time. It's about spending time in a way that feels distinctly human.
Buying time that hasn't been colonized by an algorithm, that is the true luxury of the future.
And this shift to the human and the real is totally changing how we behave as shoppers, too. The outline mentions that brand loyalty is dead, or at least dead-ish.
It's certainly on life support. The days of saying, I only buy Sony or I only buy Gucci just because of the logo, those days are fading fast. This is the decline of brand worship.
Because how do consumers actually choose what to buy now if the logo doesn't matter?
Rationality and connection. Consumers are looking strictly at quality, function, and price. They are ruthless about it.
Interesting.
If a completely unknown, no-name brand makes a winter coat that uses better material and fits better than the $2,000 luxury brand coat, the fifth-era consumer buys the no-name brand without hesitation.
Because they don't need the luxury logo to prove who they are anymore.
Exactly. They already know who they are. They don't need the external validation. And this rationality drives the massive trend of personalization.
Custom stuff.
Right. Custom clothing tailored to your exact measurements. Custom travel routes designed around your specific hobbies. It's no longer about what is popular. It's about what fits me.
And I noticed this also connects heavily to the rise of localism.
Yes, definitely. Reconnecting with the hometown, buying local crafts instead of mass-produced souvenirs, supporting the small, independent coffee shop down the street instead of the global chain.
Why is that specifically happening now?
Because in a hyper-globalized digital world, we feel unmoored. We feel like we're just floating in space. Buying local provides an emotional anchor.
It grounds you.
It makes you feel rooted in a physical place. It turns the act of consumption into a way to preserve local culture and feel like you are actually part of a community.
It's basically voting with your wallet for your neighbors.
That's a fantastic way to put it.
But we can't talk about modern consumption without talking about how we find these things.
Yeah.
Social media. The source uses this fascinating term, planting grass. Can you explain that for our listeners who might not be familiar with Chinese internet slang?
Oh, planting grass, or zongkao in Chinese. It's brilliant slang. It basically means planting a desire in someone's mind. When an influencer or a friend reviews a product and says, oh my gosh, you absolutely have to have this, they are planting grass in your head. The desire grows. And then when you finally cave and buy it, you are pulling the grass.
Pulling the grass. That is such a vivid metaphor for modern marketing.
It is, but notice the shift. It's heavily peer-to-peer, or at least it feels peer-to-peer. And this is a huge double-edged sword in the fifth era. We rely heavily on these key opinion leaders, KOLs, influencers, to help us filter through the millions of products out there.
Because there's just too much choice.
Right. But at the same time, because we want the real and the authentic, we are becoming hyper-vigilant against fake reviews.
We want the genuine recommendation, but we are deeply suspicious that everyone is just a paid shill for a brand.
Exactly. The fifth era consumer is essentially a detective. They don't just trust the first video they see. They are cross-referencing reviews on different platforms. They're watching teardown videos. They're reading niche forums.
Doing the homework.
The goal is to use these social channels to find real value. We want to find that hidden gem that actually improves our mood value, not just the heavily marketed thing that everyone else is blindly buying.
Now, this shift in how we consume, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's deeply tied to how we see our lives as a whole, and specifically how we see our jobs, our work.
This was honestly one of the most profound parts of the source material for me. There is a fundamental philosophical shift happening regarding work. The text brings up the concept of Ganbaru.
Ganbaru. That's the Japanese concept of perseverance, right?
Yeah.
Doing your best. I always thought Ganbaru was a universally good thing. Like, hang in there. Give it your all.
It is a core virtue. In fact, it is the engine that built the entire post-war economy in Japan. But the definition of what it means to exert effort is changing.
How so?
Well, the old definition of effort was basically this. Doing things you do not want to do requires effort. Work is for survival. You suffer through the difficult, unpleasant work to get the money to buy the stuff for your family.
It's a pure transaction. My misery and sweat in exchange for your money.
Exactly. But the new definition emerging in the fifth era is radically different. The idea now is that doing things you actually want to do doesn't require effort in that same painful way. It flows.
True effort flows from desire.
Precisely. If you love what you are doing, Ganbaru isn't suffering, it's passion. So younger generations are asking a question about their careers that would have seemed completely insane in the second era.
They aren't just asking if it pays the rent.
No. They are asking, does this job bring meaning?
And if the answer is no,
What do?
they leave. Or they become digital nomads. Or they take gap years to figure it out. You see a lot of career wandering. They are flat out refusing to suffer just for the sake of a paycheck if there's no spiritual satisfaction attached to it. And consumption plays a role in this search for meaning too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We use what we buy to help figure out who we want to be.
We absolutely do. We consume to explore potential new selves. Think about it. You might buy a really high-end mirrorless camera, not to show it off to your friends, but to see if maybe, just maybe, you have the eye of a photographer. Or you pay for a niche coding course or a pottery class. You are investing in possible futures for yourself.
I really love that phrasing. Buying a possible future. It's so much more optimistic than just buying a status symbol.
It leads directly to the concept of the life expert, or shenhuojia.
The life expert.
The ultimate goal of the fifth era isn't to be a quote-unquote rich person. The goal is to be a life expert, someone who deeply knows how to live well, regardless of what their actual budget is.
The source material actually listed the criteria for happy space in this new era. They called it the 7 S's.
The 7 S's. It's a fascinating checklist for well-being, and it includes very sensory, grounded things: sunlight, airflow, texture, sound.
Notice what is conspicuously missing from that list.
Exactly. Expensive Italian marble is not on the list. Gold plating is not on the list.
It's entirely sensory and environmental.
It's sensory, and it's heavily focused on sustainability and social connection. A happy space is one that feels good to the skin, sounds peaceful to the ear, and most importantly, allows you to connect authentically with other people. That is the new luxury.
This all sounds wonderful for us as people, but this seems like an absolute nightmare for traditional businesses.
It is a massive disruption.
Right. If people stop caring about brand logos and start caring about sunlight and feeling safe, how does a massive corporation sell them things?
They have to completely overhaul their strategy. The commercial implications here are paradigm shifting. Businesses can no longer succeed by manufacturing anxiety.
And we all know that old trick, the anxiety marketing. It's everywhere. You have bad breath, buy this gum or you'll die alone.
Or your car's 5 years old, your neighbors are secretly laughing at you.
You are inadequate. Please give us money to fix you.
That playbook works incredibly well in Era 2. It fails miserably in Era 5. In the fifth era, commercial success comes from actively supporting the user's life rhythm.
Supporting, not disrupting.
You succeed by helping them alleviate their existing anxiety, not creating new anxieties for them. You sell them calm. You sell them genuine connection. You sell them tools that actually help them become a better life expert.
That is a fundamental structural shift in marketing from you are inadequate, buy this to be better, to you're doing great, here is something to gently support you.
Exactly. The brands that are going to win in the next decade will be the ones that make people feel safe, understood, and capable, not the ones that make them feel insecure.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's recap this journey before we wrap things up.
It really is a journey of evolution. You can view it as the evolution of the human soul, told through the lens of the wallet.
Let's run through the eras one more time.
We started in Era 1, the nation. We bought basic goods just to survive and to help build a modern country.
Then we moved into Era 2, the family.
Right. We bought standardized status symbols to fit in, to climb the economic ladder, and to keep up with the Joneses.
Then came Era 3, the individual.
The rebellious phase. We bought highly niche, branded items to stand out, be totally different, and show off our unique egos.
Which inevitably led to the crash. Era 4, sharing.
Reality hit. We realized we had too much. We decluttered, embraced Danshari, and realized we needed less things and more utility.
And finally, that brings us to where we are heading now. Era 5, well-being.
The realization that material goods are saturated, we need experiences, connection, and emotional mood value to actually be happy.
It's almost exactly like growing up. As a kid, you just want the shiny toy. As a teenager, you want the cool clothes to fit in or stand out. And as an adult, you really just want peace and quiet.
Societies grow up just like people do. It just takes a little longer.
So here's the big question to leave you with today. We've talked about all the macro trends, the demographic data, the sociology, but what does this actually mean for you, the person listening to this right now?
I want to leave you with a thought that comes directly from the ripple effect metaphor in the text. We so often feel small and powerless in the face of the global economy.
We're just one wallet.
But every single time you open your wallet, you are casting a vote. You are voting for the exact kind of world you want to live in.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
But in the fifth era, the most important purchase you make might actually be the one you don't make.
The power of the pause.
Yes. When you choose not to buy the new phone because your old one works perfectly fine, and instead you take that money and spend it on a dinner with an old friend, or you buy a train ticket to go see your parents, or maybe you just save it so you have the freedom to work a little less next month.
That is a radical choice in a consumerist society. You are actively voting for connection over GDP. You're voting for your own life.
So the ultimate question is this. Are you consuming your life, or are you actually living it?
Wow. Are you consuming your life, or are you living it? That is definitely going to stick with me. I think I'm going to look at that digital shopping cart a little differently tonight.
Become a life expert, everyone. That's the real goal.
Thank you so much for stopping by the Deep Dive today. We know you have a choice in where you spend your time, which is your absolute most valuable asset, and we are truly honored you chose to spend this time with us.
Thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.
See you all next time.